They went good. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Protective and Emergency Services Committee, July 25th, 12 noon. Call the meeting to order. Any conflicts of interest? We see none. Approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Beck. Second by your worship.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just under 6F, I think I referred to them as e-scooters, not kick scooters, so it's the e-scooter issue. Just so there's clarification. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you for that. Adoption of the minutes, June 27th, 2023. Moved by your worship, second by Deputy Mayor. Business arising from those minutes?
Mr. Chair, just under, I just want to go back to 6A, Police 282, 284, University Avenue update. I just want to thank the Departments of Police and Fire for the comprehensive report that they submitted. And I think that also included a report from our planning department that outlined all the issues and, Mr. Chair, as you know, provided a recommendation, a strong recommendation on how to go forward. So I think that it's not too many times that we see such amount of information collected, discussed, dissected. Just all the T's and I's were crossed on it, and I think that it's when you give thanks to your department heads and your level of government, your staff, this is the time. So thank you, and thank you very much for allowing me that moment.
Thank you, sir, and I echo those comments. Okay, reports, or CAO Eleanor, this is where I say that there's nothing in closed session?
Yes, and you're adding, we should have done this at the front, but that's okay.
Sorry.
So there is no closed session discussion, and you're adding L, a new letter to your list of L. And the name of that report is 282, 284 University Avenue update.
All right, does everyone agree with that?
Good.
Councillor Beck? Deputy Mayor? Thank you. Thank you, CAO. Okay, let's start with the reports. Fire Chief Tim Mamie, sorry.
Chair? Deputy Fire Chief Kent.
All right, then, Deputy Chief, go ahead.
This operational report from the fire departments from June 20th until July 18th. Total number of fire inspections in that time period were 14. There were 3 general inspections. There were 10 inspections with hazard compliance orders issued. 1 inspection closed, 1 plan review, 1 fire investigation. There were 5 different sessions, education sessions with approximately 200 people in attendance. Our emergency response in that time period were total 92 calls. Station 1 had 50 calls. Engine 1 had from 8 to 4 p.m. had 11 calls. Engine 1 from 12 to 8 p.m. time period had 6. And Station 2 had 23 calls. And fire inspector callouts were 2. During the summer months, we take a break from weekly training, but we have several specialized training opportunities available for our members, such as animal rescue course coming up on August 4th to 5th, an emergency elevator rescue awareness course, and a multi-day chainsaw safety course coming up later in the fall, actually, and a power line safety and awareness course. During this time period, the department activities consisted of, we hosted an open house to all elected officials. The CAO, communications officer, attended with Mayor Brown, Deputy Mayor Yankoff, Councillors McAleer, Beck, and McKinnon. And we thank those for participating. And we provided a tour of both stations as well as information concerning current, future operational challenges and opportunities. On July 18th, the department welcomed a visit from Stephen Firestein from Kids with Cancer, who presented posters to the department made by some of the children with cancer that he is working with in California. The department will also have a truck participating in the Pride Parade scheduled for later in July 29th, I believe. The department also participated in July 1st activities, Diverse Cities Snowbird Demonstration, Downtown Farmers Market. We'd also like to congratulate and thank Fire Prevention Officer Cindy McFadgen on a wonderful career and her well-deserved retirement, effective August 11th, 2023. Cindy has been the driving force behind many of the innovative and successful fire prevention programs and initiatives over the past 30-plus years, and her passion, initiative, and professionalism will be sorely missed and very difficult to replace. Thank you, Your Worship and Chair.
Thank you for that, Deputy Chief. And knowing Cindy for all those years, she hung around with my wife too through the years, and she did a fantastic job, and she's a fine, fine person. So pass on our congratulations to her. Thank you. Councillor Beck?
Yeah, just a quick question, Kent. What's the nature of the education sessions that we did? There was 5 with approximately 200 attendees. What were those all about? If you could just elaborate on that a little bit.
Thank you, Councillor. There were approximately children involved, mostly with those education sessions. Some were tours of daycares, and most were in-station sessions where classes would come into the station and get a tour and get some fire prevention education at the same time.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions for the Deputy Chief? Okay. Then we go right to the Chief, I believe, is it?
Yes, thank you, Chair, Your Worship. We'll start with our staffing update. As we just mentioned, Fire Prevention Officer Cindy McFadgen is retiring. We will be preparing that job posting in the coming days. This one here is a staffing update regarding our fire inspector position. And we just want to advise committee members that we're updating you on the current job posting and the process with that, and that the fire inspector position details are known. The fire inspector position was posted internally amongst the Charlottetown Professional Firefighter Association membership in accordance with the collective agreement on June 27th and closed July 9th. There were no applicants from the internal membership. So we posted, in keeping with the collective agreement, the job posting was then externally posted by HR recruitment coordinator. And the competition closes on July 25th or 26th. Is it? That might be a typo. 26th, I believe, which is tomorrow, Chair. We're hopeful that several interested and qualified individuals make application and move forward to the testing and interview phase of the competition. At this point, the financial implications covered are fully funded in the 2023-24 operational budget. Public engagement, we're open to all through the HR recruitment coordinator. And the details of the legislative authority are listed in the report. And this initiative is in alignment with the city's strategic plan in regards to personnel and staffing.
Very good. Personally, I'm sort of surprised someone from in-house didn't apply, but anyway, that's just the way the world's going. And
Definitely, it is a different position or qualification
Right.
than most of the members in the organization have. They're more in the firefighter 2 role.
Right.
This is a separate specialized role with inspections, plans review, and investigations as well. So, but yeah, also an
Yeah.
opportunity for some, that's for
yes.
sure.
Excellent. I mean, you'll just keep us updated how things are going. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Worship.
Fire Chief Mamie, over the last 2 years, we've added how many positions to the fire budget? Is it 3 full-time?
Yes, Your Worship, we've had 3 members that were offered positions and are currently in holding pattern until they start actual work, till we get a trial schedule in place in order to employ them amongst the platoons. So we've increased by 3 members over the last 2 years.
Okay.
In firefighter 2 positions.
So those positions that are on hold, are they the 3 positions that are on hold, are in hold?
Yes, those positions are filled. The 3 members have been identified and awarded the positions. It's just a matter of getting a start time for their work schedule, and we have to coordinate with the union a better schedule to get them employed.
And is that for Station 1 or Station 2 or?
At Station 1, Your Worship.
Okay, because Station 1 doesn't have a full-time fire service personnel, correct?
Station 2. Station 2 does not.
Station 2.
Yes.
And maybe it's not appropriate to bring it up this discussion, but I'm sure that must be or will be part of the discussions with the union going forward, correct? And staff and,
Staffing is one of their concerns, yes, sure.
okay. So just to finish up, Mr. Chair, these three positions in holding will be taking active duty the end of the summer, the first of fall. When do you have a target date yet, or is you waiting from the union?
I was hopeful, Your Worship, that we'd be able to start them immediately upon awarding them positions. That's been held up to this point by an inability to get both sides together to get a trial schedule, and we are awaiting arbitration in October as well, so the timeline could be stretched.
Thank you.
So Chief, just on that too, so that brings us up to, once these three start their position, to 12?
That's correct, Chair. It'd be 12 full-time.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions, Deputy Mayor? Councillor Beck? Okay. Let's move on.
Thank you, Chair. Your Worship, this report concerns the fire underwriter survey update. Just to give committee members updated details on where we're at with the fire underwriter survey preparation and delivery. The report details the department continues working with Opta Information, which are the Fire Underwriter Survey Authority, and we're continue to provide them with data. They're accumulating much data from our water department as well, and operational information from the department, and I apologize for the typo in sharing. All efforts remain focused on achieving a September 2023 conclusion, which a delivery of a report for our review. Subjects have been discussed at many committee and council meetings in the past years in an effort to determine the updated fire service needs of the city in relation to the optimized number of and location of stations. Project has been budgeted for in a 23-24 operational budget, expected to cost approximately $35,000. No public engagement at this point, and you can see the legislative authority and strategic alignment goals there. That concludes that report, Chair.
Thank you, Chief.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Your Worship, go ahead, sorry.
So
I keep
again,
forgetting to look.
getting back to the FUS, they're doing the study for us, so we're looking at achieving by September 23. Is that, do you think, fixed, or do you think that we might have to be flexible with that September 2023?
That's why there's no particular date, Your Worship. They are coordinating, and they are the only authority across the country. They have several other municipalities that they're working on, but our timeline is that September 2023 for delivery. No indication at this point that it would be put out any further, but we will be contacting them in the coming days and weeks to see where we're at.
Because this could come out about the same time that arbitration comes up, or is that what you're looking at, or are we trying to align them, whether one follows the other or both at the same time?
Yes, there is no real cart before the horse here because they are two separate matters, but they are related definitely, which is one of the reasons why we put the hold on the process of the new station so that we get this fire underwriter survey completed. And once that's completed, that'll assist as well with the decisions coming out of arbitration will be schedule-based, will be looked at as well. But this fire underwriter survey is only determining the number and location of stations, and that's giving us those selections. Nothing to do with staffing, Worship.
The reason I bring this up, Mr. Chair, because we've been dealing with this issue for the last 3 or more years, and I know we're trying to do due diligence, but everything's done to go ahead with a new station, whether it's a third station or a second station. The plans are done. We got the site. So I just hope we see some kind of a conclusion. And I think in the future, Fire Chief Mamie, we have 3 great communities that are part of the capital region and have 3 great fire services in all 3 municipalities. It would be nice to see if we could do an FUS on just a more shared approach to fighting fires and emergencies for the whole region, because it's shared services, strong communities is something I believe in, and I think that it would be good for all of us. So something that we should look at.
Definitely, Your Worship, and that is something that we've addressed previously with mutual aid agreements. We have a good working relationship with our partners to both sides of us there with Crossroads and with North River. And if we run into an instance where we require more personnel, apparatus, or support, they are quick to fill in, and we do the same for those members on a regular basis.
Thank you for that. Okay. That was the EMO, I guess, right? I'm just going around.
Yes, Chair.
Is that it, Chief? And Deputy Chief for Fire?
We do have the EMO topics update, and then
Oh, yes, sorry.
the final one that we just added, we'll add that to the end of the full report.
Yes, yes, please.
So with the EMO topics update, it's just to advise committee members on the details concerning some of our updates. I know some suggestions from last meeting to add items to the agenda. We didn't get a fuller sort of understanding of what council or committee members were looking for there. So in the future, once we have topics identified, I'll round that out with some more information. Concerning Fiona, the city EMO team will be meeting in early August to finalize the report and be able to share with committee council at that point. We have had just recently, about 3 weeks ago, meetings still with the province as they're trying to do their follow-up report as well, so everything will fall in hand. In regards to weather events, there's been several questions about the city EMO and how it's able to either prepare or roll out resources for any sort of those events. Our all hazards plan in our EMO process can be adopted to address all environmental emergencies and will be further discussed in future training sessions. There will be some sessions lined up in the fall for both staff and council to be able to go through our EMO, our emergency measures organization, really from top to bottom to make sure everybody's fully aware of the powers of the executive group and the operational branch and how everything works hand in hand to get that. And reception seminars, once again, that's an EMO topic that we can address in those future training sessions. We'll be able to detail how they come about, who is able to staff them, who's able to continue to run their operation through any sort of events, and that's all laid out once again in our all hazards plan. This has been discussed at various committee meetings, obviously, and operational activities and information sessions as well. No financial implications, and you can see the legislative authority and strategic alignment, Chair.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chief. And it seems like every week there's a new municipality or something getting hit. I'm looking at Halifax last week and all that, and it's great to see that you're on top of things and we're trying to move forward with this and try to be prepared because I'm sure Charlotte could be next. You don't know this day and age and the way the weather's going. So I thank you for that. Any questions to the?
I just had a comment. Just going back to your point, Chief, about in terms of specifics, I think this is, I know I wanted to have this brought up here at the committee level, and I think this is assessing what I was looking to see discussed, and it's more along the lines that I just want to see clarity in terms of, like, I like your terminology, all hazards plan, or the EMO all hazards plan, because that could be all encompassing, right? And saying that we have a certain plan for this, certain plan for that. And I think what I would like to know is for us to know what is the expectations that we have, and then again for the public to know what the expectations would be of us as well too. And I think that was kind of the important part that I was looking for in terms of seeing this. So I'm glad, just to echo the chair's words, that we're having those discussions. The plans are being formulated because we are one nasty incident away from having to be sprung into action. So hopefully it doesn't come our way, but we got to be prepared for it just in the possibility that it could be coming to our beautiful island and our beautiful city.
Yes, Councillor Rebecca, couldn't agree more. And yeah, my only comment with the when you bring forward or anybody brings forward is that I'm going to do more bit legwork with contacting the individual, the councillor, and finding out more fuller of what exactly you're looking for in the next committee. But that's exactly right. And our Our neighbors over in Halifax are experiencing an awful event right now, and our thoughts are with them. And it just goes to show you there's some things that you just can't be prepared for, but you have to be able to react and do the best you can.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Your Worship.
I've been consistently asking for this follow-up because any climate catastrophic event requires a follow-up. So I don't think we've done the debriefing yet on Fiona. So I'd like to that should be something we do that we provide to council, because we, at the Water and Wastewater Standing Committee, approved purchasing 2 more generators for our lift stations. Well, we have 43 lift stations with now only 13 backups. So, and those lift stations are not working. What that means, or what happens there, is raw sewage goes into our waterways. So we have to address that. There's also the issue of cell phone towers. They have backup generators, but they're not on the priority list for fuel. So we don't have cell phone towers, then communications is cut short. So that's why I wanted to ask it, follow up with this Fiona hurricane debriefing. And if you look at weather events, just this past Sunday, the mayor of Palm Springs, California, was on with the ABC This Week with Stephanopoulos. They were at 123 degrees Fahrenheit. And the business district in Palm Springs in the afternoon was shut down. It was too hot. And their restaurants now have mist sprayers just to cool their clients. So we are going in a direction. It's not when, it's if, not if, it's going to be when the next bad situation, climatic situation hits our community. So you look at Halifax, another flooding, fires, tornado. I know that we have here also reception centers, comfort centers. Like, I don't know if we have anything in place to accommodate a situation where the temperature gets up to 38, 40 degrees Celsius. So my understanding after Fiona is that we were going to have after the coldest day of the night in February, that we would have a municipal EMO team in place just to address opening up comfort centers if there was a flood, if there was extreme heat. So these are issues that I think we need I appreciate the work that our first responders are doing for the city of Charlottetown. It's high quality, it's exceptional. I just think we need mechanisms in place to address these climatic catastrophic situations or events that we're experiencing and will continue to experience. So that's where I'm coming from, Chief, when I keep bringing it up. So just that Fiona be debriefing, I'd like to bring that to council someday with the part of the team or all of the team that was part of that were involved with the Fiona disaster or EMO team. That's where I'm coming from, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for the kind words in regards to our emergency responding personnel. We do have, and that's what's going to be shared more clearly with council and yourself, Your Worship. We do have mechanisms in place to deal with many of these situations that you speak of currently, and we do know they're coming. Just recently, actually, at the first of this week, early last week, we received 2 cooling and misting tent stations. So we have pop-up shelters that can reduce the heat in a very small area. So 10 by 10 is 100 square feet by 8 to 10 degrees Celsius. So if we run into those type of events, we just bought the first 2 to see exactly how useful they'd be for us. We've incorporated them into our rehab trailer at this point, but that'll be information I share with Parks and Rec and Public Works about staffing most of our facilities with these type of resources. So we are constantly watching that. The report, we'll be meeting in early August to finalize, as mentioned in the committee report. And some of the lessons that were learned through Fiona are already being applied as we move forward here, Your Worship. So nothing will be overlooked, hopefully, as we move forward.
Thank you.
Yes, Chief, thank you for that. And by talking to the MO staff and all that, I know you're on top of things, and sometimes things take a little longer, but it's great to see that you're trying some new things. And once again, I'm like your mayor. We'd like to thank you for everything you're doing so far. Okay, is that it? No, we got one more, I guess. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting to look side to side. Our Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. I did notice something came through our email, maybe the day before yesterday, that through the province to some sort of a grant or incentive for municipalities to buy generators. Did anyone else see that information? It was yesterday, right after I listened to the water and sewer meeting, because I thought how ironic that it was when that's what was being talked about in water and sewer. Now, it's not that type of a generator, but it's more the type that can be taken around to the different locations. So it was somewhere buried in our email. I just wondered if anyone else saw it, unless I'm really, maybe I have sunstroke.
I don't recall that in particular, Deputy Mayor Yankoff, but there is a program that I shared with the manager of Parks and Rec in regards to money and resources available for reception centers. It's actually, I lost the terminology, but a reception center identification. So that, I think, is federally granted down through the provinces and again through the municipality, but the manager of Parks and Rec has picked that up and will be carrying that forward as well.
And maybe, Deputy Mayor, if you can find that, if you can forward on maybe to the police and fire, if you don't mind, please and thank you. Great. Okay, Chief, I guess we got one more on, do we? The one that's supposed to be closed session, but it's going open?
Yeah, okay. Yes, Chair. We'll do that one right now. This is a report titled 282-284 University Avenue Update, and this is to provide committee members and council an update on the 282-284 University Avenue current issue we're dealing with. Administration, along with the city solicitor, met with the property owner's legal representative to discuss the resolution, which was passed in council in July 10th, which was passed by Charlotte Council July 10th, requiring the demolition of the structure on the noted property. Via friendly amendment to the resolution, the timeline for this action was to be within 3 to 6 weeks. Discussions concerning the possibility of repairing the current structure were explored, as well as the demolition of the structure. Both parties agreed to reconvene on July 25th, this afternoon, to further discuss, following a meeting between the property owner's architect and the city's Planning and Heritage Department, which has taken place. It was also agreed that the property owner's representatives were to ensure the architect had a structural engineer's report ready for this meeting this afternoon, and I believe they will, or they've taken the steps to do so. The city also confirmed that feedback from the Planning and Heritage Department regarding the zoning and development bylaw requirements for redevelopment will also be available and discussed at this next meeting. Councilor committee history was, as mentioned, the resolution was passed on July 10, 2023 council. Financial implications unknown at this time, as demolition may be performed by the city Public Works Department and/or by the owner and/or charged against the owner. This matter is not for public engagement at this point. Throughout the complaint process, the property owners have been engaged. And the legislative authority, as you can see, PEI Municipal Government Act, City of Charlottetown Fire Prevention Bylaw, Zoning and Development Bylaw, and Charlottetown's Dangerous, Hazardous, and Unsightly Bylaw.
Excellent. Any questions?
Just a question of clarification, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Your Worship.
So if I look at the second paragraph, it was also agreed that the property owner's representative was to ensure the architect and structural engineer's report ready for the next meeting. So did we hire a structural engineer, or did we just have our chief and building inspector do the inspection?
Your Worship, our report was completed by the Chief Building Inspector. The structural engineer's report that mentioned in this report is something that the owners are looking
The
at.
owners. So is it our intent to also look at getting a structural engineering report, or is it just to go with the one report?
Well, we've already had that report completed, Your Worship, by our Chief Building Inspector. That is our integrity report on the construction of the building, and now they're having their own.
Yeah, just to clarify my question, but did the chief inspector reach out to a structural engineer to do the assessment, or did he do it on his own qualifications as a chief inspector.
That's correct, Your Worship. He was qualified to do that inspection.
And that's, again, to our CAO, I know, who is a planner, that is sufficient to mark off as structurally, okay? And the other issue, the city also, this is the last sentence, the city also confirmed that feedback from the Planning and Heritage Department regarding zoning and development bylaw requires redevelopment will be also available and discussed. Could you clarify that? Is that, I just want a clarification on that.
Yes, Your Worship. That is simply the city's Planning and Heritage Department doing their due diligence in regards to what the owner may be able to redevelop on that property in accordance with some variances that would be pre-approved on non-conforming properties.
Right, yes, so there could be more density if asked. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Chief. Any other questions for the chief? No, we're good? That's your report, Chief?
That concludes my report, Chair.
Thank you very much, and once again, pass on our heartfelt thanks for everything going on over there. Okay. Police Deputy Chief Sean Coombs.
Chair, Your Worship, before we begin there, I'd just like to mention that our officers are presently working on a serious situation that's happening out on Mount Edward Road, and working diligently, and since this morning are currently out there. And on behalf of the Charlottetown Police, I'd like to say our thoughts and prayers go out to those that are involved and family members. And also like to thank the police officers that responded and the assistance of Charlottetown Fire. And from that, I will go into my reports.
Okay. Thank you for that, Deputy Chief. Go right ahead.
Okay, so first one up is Operation Headway. And Operation Headway is something that you may all be familiar with. It's a program that we've had many years in the past. And it's had a hiatus since COVID-19 for about 3 years. And we're bringing it back now with the increase we're seeing in bicycles, e-bikes, and e-scooters where people aren't using their helmets. So the details are police officers will be issuing tickets to people not wearing helmets. The fine is 194-2, subsection A1 of the Highway Traffic Act, with a $150 fine. The fine can be waived if they attend an information session on the importance of wearing a helmet at a date that will be provided to the individual. The information session will be put on by people who have been injured in an incident while not wearing a helmet, as well as professionals who can speak about the injuries. Kenny Murnaghan, who's worked on this program in the past, will assist the department with organizing the information session. This was discussed under new business on June 27th. Financial implications are not available at this time, and the authorities, the Highway Traffic Act.
Very good. Any questions for the Deputy Chief on Operation Headway?
I just have a comment. I'm really concerned about the prevalence of lack of helmets on. Just by way of brief history, I was actually in Kenny Murray's class when he had his brain injury back as a young fella, and it was something that stuck with me for quite a long time, and I really applaud the work that Kenny has put in to try and provide safety. It was just yesterday, it ties into the e-scooters, where there was a kid who was about, I'd say 12, 13 years old, who basically cut out in front of me, just actually down in the corner, Ponnell and Kent Street. No helmet on, and was going at quite a clip. So I'm really, I've seen, and that's just one that's happened. I'm sure there's a plethora of other incidents that have taken place as well too. So I'm really glad to see that we're recognizing that it is an issue and that we are addressing it so that we don't have situations where we have young people or adults or visitors, whoever it might be, getting into situations that are regrettable and cause, irreparable harm. So I'm glad you're doing it there, Deputy Chief Combs, and it's nice to see that we are not putting our heads in the sand on that and saying that it is something that has to be done. And so good on you guys. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor Beck. We all see it every day, unfortunately, and the police get their hands full doing this one, and we know that, because you're going to have some pushback from some people, but laws are the laws. We all got to follow them.
And Mr.
Your
Chair,
Worship?
Mr. Chair, I know that the police department can draw on their experience when they first attempted or were first asked to do it back in, I think, early 2000, when the provincial law came into effect along with the city bylaw. And there was a program that was offered down at that time, I think, the Basilica Rec Center, which is now the Murphy Community Center. Do you remember the name of that program, Sean? It was a way to offset paying the fine.
Your worship, I'm not sure what that would have been called, but it would have been under the Operation Headway, which like I said, has been around for a while. And every year there's been a little something new added to it or deleted. Charlottetown Police have tried numerous different avenues, under education. We've had donations from Canadian Tire and other stores to provide giving away helmets to the younger kids, and we've given out countless those. Dairy Queen and other restaurants have given out coupons free of charge to the officers to hand out to the kids that we've seen using their helmets as positive reinforcement. And then, of course, there's the option of writing the ticket with the ability to have it waived if you go to the education. So up to this point, we have really been taking an education approach on it. Unfortunately, as you all know, we're at a point now where the people who are concerned about their safety and know that they need to wear a helmet are wearing them, and then there's a segment of people who just have decided not to wear the helmets, no matter how hard we try to educate. That's where we're at, but we're going to continue on with the education and then also go with the enforcement as well.
Yeah. So I think it was called Helmet School. If there was a school name to it, but I think back then, if there's a 14-year-old or a 12-year-old male, female that you give the fine to, are we able to administer fines to anyone below 16? Like, is there something? I think I recall something that there was a reason for this school they had back then, probably similar to what you're looking at here, called Operation Headway. Is that true or false? Can you clarify that, please?
Without going over legislation, I can't say right off the top of my head what the age limit is for writing a
Ticket.
for a ticket. But I know all youth were diverted to the Operation Headway.
Okay. Thank you.
And of course, their parents would be notified if they were youth as well.
Thank you for that. Deputy Chief, you want to keep rolling?
Okay, the next one on the list would be the electric scooters. So we've done a lot of work on that since our last meeting. We've done a jurisdictional scan of other police departments and other municipalities. Our report details there are currently 38 electronic scooters in Charlottetown. The owner is working on a lock-on-lock feature for the helmet. He tested a reaction test on his Safe Ride feature on the 7th of July. Riders must pass the reaction test in order to use the scooter. The owner has agreed to shut down the service at 12 midnight, Sunday through Thursday, and 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday night. He has also hired a fleet operator associates who will patrol the streets monitoring riders' behavior with the assistance of Charlottetown Police Service. Riders that do not follow the rules will be banned from riding his scooters. As far as public engagement and communication, we've put out a media release, and we hope to be working with the province, since it is a province-wide issue, with their communications area to put out a province-wide education on some of the situations around e-scooters, mainly focusing on the fact that young people should realize that if you operate an electronic scooter while you're impaired, that you can be charged with impaired driving. And we think that's only fair to get that message out in particular, because young people, there's been so much done with mad and impaired driving with cars that they're getting the message, but with electronic scooters, they may not realize that they also are subject to the criminal code.
That's a
And then
good,
just-
oh, sorry. That's a good point too, Deputy Chief. And on a personal note, I'd like to say the owner of these is willing to do anything and work. He's like talking to the chief and all that through last week or a couple of weeks ago. And like the owner is willing to do anything he can. It's a new business. He wants to keep it going and wants to grow it. And he phoned a few counselors, I think, too. And he's willing to work with, play with the rules. And they're looking at helmets and they got to be locked in the whole 9 yards. So in my personal view, like sort of kudos for them too, because he's just not throwing it to a side. He wants to work with everybody on this. Your worship?
Mr. Chair, and Sean, thank you for this report, but there's a great article, not too long, just like teachers love short articles. It's in the Municipal World, June 2023, and the title is Love Them or Hate Them, E-scooters are on the way. And they talk about many jurisdictions throughout the country that did pilot projects, right? And they did an evaluation. We didn't do a pilot project. We just jumped right into it last year when economic development gave the green light to go forward. But I think there's some interesting information in here that could be of help to your department. And again, it's also stresses the dire need of wearing helmets. I remember Kenny Murnion telling me that he's heard many say that, well, a helmet won't save your life. If you get into an accident, it could be life or death. But Kenny knows, as Councillor Beck referred to, his death was, he was very close to almost passing away, but Kenny incurred that injury back when he was about 7 years old, and he's been a strong advocate of all walk and anyone that's rolling with bikes, rollerblades, skateboards, etc., should be wearing helmets, and I think it's very important. And I think this article would be a great asset. And I'll just hand you the article over afterwards. But and again, we have to remember that an e-scooter is a motorized operation. It's like an e-bike. It's like a snowmobile. It's like as Councillor Beck said, it's no different than a pleasure craft out on the harbour. It's motorized, and if you get charged, if you're drinking or you're under the influence of cannabis, you can be charged. So that the message has to get out. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Your Worship. Councillor Beck.
Yep. Thank you again for this, Deputy Chief. I just have a question about the fleet operator associates patrolling the streets. I guess who are, like, is this a private security company working in conjunction with the city? What's the monitoring? When is the monitoring taking place? What's that look like? Do they have any, we're talking about, obviously, they can't issue tickets or anything like that. So, but is it really just kind of an awareness thing, trying to be a presence? Is that part of the education process? What does that maybe look like in terms of what that support system for this initiative is? Because I'm with Councillor Ramsey. I do appreciate the fact that the owner is looking to collaborate, and I think there's good with this, so I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but want to make it working as well as we can. So maybe if you could comment on that.
Counselor, that's a great question, and I'd also like to reiterate what the chair said, that we've had a lot of support from the owner of the business, and he's put forward a lot of really good ideas. I could read them out to you, or you may already have them in your package. They all look like great ideas which are going to help out with safety. As far as that one in particular, I think he's still at the drawing board with that, and we'll have to flush it out as it comes. But certainly, at this point, there's presently no one that's acting as a security guard or putting out any tickets or any sort of enforcement. I think that's just something else he's doing as another layer to help out in the future, but it's certainly not out, hasn't been rolled out from his company as of yet. As have some of his other ideas. They're still in the testing phases at the moment.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you for that, Deputy Chief. Next one, request from the Construction Association, the nuisance bylaw. Would you like to touch on that one? Or maybe you wouldn't.
Okay, the next one is a request from the Construction Association of PEI regarding the nuisance bylaw. It is recommended that council consider amending the nuisance bylaw based on what the association is requesting. And they are basically requesting a change to the nuisance bylaw that they would start operation at 6 a.m. as opposed to 7 a.m. And in your package, there is the letter outlining all the details of that from the president.
Does anyone have any questions on that? And basically, my personal thought is that if it is changed to 6, it's only going to be from, let's say, from May till September, because then the time changes and it gets pretty dark around 7 o'clock in the wintertime, right? So, I don't know, does anyone have any comments on that? And I know there's going to be some neighborhoods not wanting it, but there's a lot of construction going on and we got to get her done. So, I guess everybody's good at it. I just spilled my guts. Thank you.
I think, Mr. Chair, that,
Your worship, I
Mr.
should have
Chair,
known.
I'd just like to find out, did we do a comparison with other communities on this issue? It's always good to look at what's, I heard the chair earlier talk about our capital region partners that they're looking at, that was a little later, but anyways, could we do that? I know, and that's a good point that the chair makes there about as we get into winter or into the fall, 7 a.m. is dark, so 6 a.m. is completely dark. So I think would like to get a little more on this, and before we push too far on it, we have jurisdictions that are very close, Moncton, Halifax. Just again, we have to do our due diligence in ensuring that our neighbours that live in these neighbourhoods where construction's taking place, that we get the feedback from our sister communities, if that's possible, Deputy.
Worship, we can do that. We had a great working relationship with Halifax, Truro, Moncton, Fredericton on the e-scooter, and we can certainly do that jurisdictional scan. Probably we would start off with Stratford and Cornwall, because that would be our closest comparators to see what they're doing, or if they've even received the same letter and request.
Good point. Did they also get the notice from the CAPPI? Excuse me one second.
I'm kind of betwixt and between on this, to be truthful. I recognize the reason for it. I thought the letter was a little skimpy on details, maybe, but I get the general gist of it. Kind of going back to what the mayor was saying when we You know, when we rolled out the e-scooter, we kind of jumped right, or the previous council, I guess, jumped 10 toes in, and without kind of running. The reality of construction is it's temporary in most instances. It could be a matter of a week, 2 weeks, could be a matter of months, but it's not a forever type of thing wherever you're going to affect it. I guess before we go to changing our bylaw completely, is a test run worth it to see what that actually looks like before we actually, and I don't know how that works in terms of implementing a temporary change to our bylaw. I'm just a little reticent about making it a full-time thing without kind of seeing what the potential impact of it is. You know, I want to support the construction industry because, as we're all well aware, we are in a housing crisis. So whatever we can do to try and move that along, I'm all for. It's trying to find that balance between supporting our residents, our business community, the taxpayers of our city. So I do agree with the jurisdictional scan, too, of checking to see whether the other municipalities have been receiving the same request. I would assume they have, because we're talking an island-wide initiative here. But I'd sort of, I'm okay with looking at it and trying it to see what it looks like. I don't know if I'm 100% in on making it a permanent change. That would be my only reticence on that.
Just a point of order, Mr. Chair, on what Councillor Beck stated there. You either change the bylaw, amend the bylaw, or you don't amend the bylaw, because as soon as you amend it, then that becomes the bylaw. The only other way to do this is a pilot project, but I thought before doing a pilot project, if that's, and again, that would have to be flushed out with legal and our CAO. Yeah, so that would have to be flushed out. I know I should have looked into this a lot more before we met today, because I have to leave at 1 o'clock for another. So, again, we just have to look at the legality of doing a pilot or what's going on in other jurisdictions. I appreciate it because our family business, which is now in a blind trust on my part, we do work in the industry, and it's crucial that every minute, every hour, every day counts, especially when you look at our weather conditions and what's been happening. So I'm just asking, press the pause button, just get more information.
We'll definitely have that jurisdictional scan for you at least by the next meeting, if not sooner.
Okay. Deputy Chair? Or Deputy Chair? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And if we could look at as well, right now, the existing time is 7 a.m., but I think we all know that things usually get started prior to that. So if we are looking at adjusting it to 6 a.m., I think that needs to be a hard, fast start, 6 a.m., not let's get the trucks going, let's get things moving. Then all of a sudden, it becomes substantially earlier, and a huge communication piece for the public would need to be part of that whole, there'd have to be a full communication plan around, getting that word out. But I look forward to seeing the jurisdictional scan with the other municipalities first, so thank you.
Thank you for that, and you're exactly right, because if you give them 6, then they'll have her going at 5, and then, so Deputy Chief, you'll get the jurisdictional scan and all that? Thank you. Okay, abandoned buildings.
Sorry, Mr.
I'm
Chair.
sorry.
So with this, then we're just pausing everything pending further information. There's nothing coming forth for council's consideration. or
We're
anything
going to
like
wait to get more information on this.
Okay.
Before we bring it to council.
Great,
Am I
thank you.
correct? Thank you. Okay, abandoned buildings, Deputy Chief.
Chair, the next one up is abandoned uninhabited buildings within the city of Charlottetown. The report details are attached that you have received is a list of abandoned or uninhabited buildings within the city of Charlottetown, and this has been discussed in previous committee meetings. The legislative authority is dangerous, hazardous, and unsightly premises bylaw. And as you'll see in the attachment, the list of addresses that have made that list.
Yes, we all received that. Any questions from committee members? We were looking for a list for a few months, and I'd like to thank you for getting the list. And as I said earlier, that list is going to be changing every week and growing every week. So, you know, it's going to be an ongoing, it's a moving file, really. Councilor Inga, if you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. So we have a list now. What's the next steps? What's the, yeah, what from this? This is great. We have a list. What do we do with a list?
That's a great question. CA Elner, would we have to go for each one individually? Or, I mean, now that we have a list created, which is a moving document, what do we do after that? Like, we just didn't create the list just to have the list, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next step would be for the bylaw officer to start working their way through the list in terms of taking enforcement action. Thanks.
Thank you for that. We're okay with that? Do you understand that, Councilor Beck?
I think with some of these properties, I don't know whether, I think kind of a determination has to be a little bit more clarified. Like I went around and looked at these properties, and some of them are clearly have been abandoned for quite a while. Quite a few of them, I would say, would require serious remediation in order to make them useful. And some of them I'm not so sure of whether they are usable or, there's actually a couple that I'm kind of unsure on the uninhabited part as well too. So I think has to be a little bit more of an understanding as to what has been happening with these buildings and what potentially could be happening with these buildings, because a lot of them are in very usable areas, serviceable areas, I guess, and I'd like to see them used purposefully. And I think as part of the bylaw officer's work or the next steps, I think we have to, I guess, more certainly ascertain whether they are abandoned or uninhabited or both, or what measures have to be taken in order to have them become, I guess, useful buildings in Charlottetown, which is really what I ultimately would like to see. We have limited land mass in Charlottetown, and I would like to see our buildings being used for appropriate reasons. So anyway, I think it's a good starting point. And I'd be look forward to see where we do actually go from with this. But I think part of it is getting that understanding of what actual has been the past recent history of recent and maybe long-standing history with some of these buildings as well too. So anyway, it's good to have this going. We did
Yes.
talk about this before, so it's nice to have a little bit of a direction started. There's still work to do.
There is still work to do, and as the CAO stated too, like, this is the first step with the list, and our bylaw officer and all that will be working with the owners, and then we'll go from there. For each property, there's a different case for everyone, so we hope, it's going to work from there, but we've been asked to get a list created, so we're one step as we go. Okay. Very good, Deputy. All right. That's under abandoned buildings too, isn't it, Deputy Chief? That's all under one?
That was one report.
Yeah.
The next one would be unsightly premises,
Right.
resolution to council.
Yeah. We got the list again, as I stated last week 2 weeks ago at our council meeting. I think there's 14 or 15 properties that the CAO read off, you know, for grass cutting and so on and so forth. And it's starting to be a sore spot with me because we know we can use the city's taxpayers' money much better than going in and getting public works, cleaning up people's property. And some are repeat offenders, some are absentee landlords. And it's just, it's getting off the charts. Like, we did 14 the other day, now there's another 12 here on here. And like, I'm gonna ask the CAO, her and I chatted a couple of times about this. Is there any way that we can hit the landlords or the property owners that much more? Maybe she can look into that and get back to us on that, because I think it's a lien right now on the property, if I'm not mistaken. But I was thinking about this last night when I was reading the report, and I'm sorry to go on with this, but it's starting to bother me more and more every day. But if a person owns a property and they're in it for the next 40 years, heaven forbid, like, that's 40 years that the city's not going to get their money back. You know, it's until that house is sold or whatever happens on that road. Like, is there any way, and maybe, I don't know, you can check into this, so we can put it under sewer and water or their property tax? Well, there's no use putting under property tax because the province collects the property tax. Like, we're not getting our money back, but we're still tying up staff for public works and our bylaw officer and everything like that to go in and have the crews go in and fix these places up. And we all know some cases that they'll say, well, the city will be back in 2 weeks' time to do it, or next month to do it. Like, that's really not fair for the average taxpayer. I don't think it is, you know, to be paying for someone else's property to be cleaned up time and time again. And that is my rant. But it's starting to really, I've been on this now for 8 years, so we keep seeing some of this stuff. And it's just, some people don't care. So they're going to say, well, the city go in there. And, I mean, it's the city's job. Well, it isn't Kevin Ramsey's job that I pay taxes, that I got to pay for, I mean, the deputy mayor's property or Councillor Beck's, something that's not part of the program. Sorry about that. Councillor, Deputy Mayor Yankoff.
Thank you, Chair. I think one of our struggles is we presently don't have a summary offense ticketing bylaw, so we don't really have the means right now to do anything more than what we're doing. So I think, you know, and perhaps COO Mohammed can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think that that's the next step is the summary offense ticketing, so that we do have meat to our infringements to our unsightly bylaws. Because right now, that's our only recourse, is to put a lien on a property. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if we have to change the bylaw, CAO, because you and I had this discussion probably enough that you're probably tired of me with it. I guess what I'm trying to do is recoup what we're spending man hours, money, resources in there, and to put a lien against the property, it just seems not to be working, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the summary offense ticketing bylaw is currently being worked on by the city solicitor, so it's in the works. We hope to have it ready for the fall, and hopefully we can address this issue and perhaps relook at the bylaw itself to see if there are other things that other cities are doing other than a lien and to recoup our costs. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Beck?
Yeah. I actually, Kent and I just were having this discussion the other day as well, too. So it seems we're having all this discussion all over the place. And, I think we all share the common concern. If we just look at this list alone, we've got 12, I think, properties on it, something like that. 5 of which are habitual annual offenders. I guess I'm wondering, as part of this, part of it is we want to work with landlords and property owners to educate, kind of what you were talking about, Deputy Chief Coombs, earlier on the other matter, where we're trying to educate and make people aware of what we're looking for in terms of expectations. But there comes a point in time where enough is enough. And I think with some of these habitual offenders is the areas that I'm really more concerned about, because we're, again, I looked at the properties and I've seen them in the past as well too. Do we keep a record of how many times we've been going back to said property? Do we, we know there's an habitual offender, and maybe is that part of something that we look at in terms of the reworking our summary ticketing bylaw? Is that something that we look at as a graduated approach, where we try the education piece, we try the information piece, and then we move to a different step if we're coming in once again with habitual repeat offenders? It's no different than our court system, where you look at past history. If you're dealing with one-offs, it's one thing. If you're dealing with habitual offenders, that's quite another thing. So I'm just wondering, I guess, do we, or should we, or can we, or is it appropriate to keep a bit of a running record on where we have been with some of these habitual offenders?
Counselor, that's a good question, and I did bring that up with the bylaw officer, Constable Sutcliffe, and he educated me and enlightened me on some of his tasks. Certainly with some of those properties, the bigger players, the 5 that you discuss, certainly a case would need to be made with documentation to get to the next level, and I don't see there being an issue with that. What he was saying is a lot of the work he does is fluid, it's vocal, it's working with the owners, and to put him in behind a desk and be doing all kinds of paperwork takes the one bylaw officer away from going around, and I've watched him in the truck just go all day just doing stuff. So I think it might be, this is just my opinion, but a hybrid model of certainly the big issued locations, it would need to be documented and a file presented like a criminal code file would be for sure. But then there's other ones, I think we would be taking the resources away from him being actually out and trying to work with the landowners just for documentation that might actually be resolved before we even get here again.
Yeah, and that's really, I agree with you 100%, Deputy Chief, that, I don't want Todd, and again, Todd Sutcliffe does great work. He's very responsive to any request you ever get. And, I think it's the part, I guess I'm trying to, we want to reduce the workload, not add to the workload of the bylaw officer and to our, fire service as well, too, when they're dealing with habitual offenders on their side as well. We don't want to add, but I think I'm really more concerned about the habitual ones, and they're the ones that I think we have to see if we can remediate or help or support or, try and affect a bigger piece of a change with them. But I agree with you 100% on your not being tied up with tedious administrative tasks. Let's get out and work with people and try and make the best decisions we can. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Beck. And Sean, you'll be taking that back and talking to the bylaw officer too and things like that, because he's probably the busiest man in the city these days. So, okay, let's move on to excessive vehicle and motorcycle noise, which is brought up every year, as we all know, because... Oh, I'm sorry. Was there a motion in that, Tracy? I missed it. Sorry.
That's going to council. You have to put a mover and second it to council.
Oh, yes, the unsightly properties. I'm sorry, yes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Yankoff, second by Councillor Beck. I apologize for that, yes. So we're moving on to council, those properties. Thank you for that, Tracy.
Isn't there another unsightly one? Resolution number 2? About the car, there's a resolution there for, it came after that last unsightly property ones.
Yes. Okay, about the vehicle, you're talking about Councillor Beck, I believe.
Well,
yes?
this is moved by Councillor Ramsey, seconded by me.
Yeah. Okay, do I have a motion to move that to council? Deputy Mayor Yankoff, and second by Councillor Beck.
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, Deputy Chief, all the deputies.
Thank you, Chair. The next report would be excessive vehicular and motorcycle noise discussion. And that would be discuss excessive vehicular and motorcycle noise in the city of Charlottetown. We do have a bylaw in effect. It's section 3.7 of the bylaw, excessive noise. And it's up for discussion. I would agree with you, Chair, that it is an ongoing issue every summer. It hasn't gotten any better in the 30 years I've been here. It seems like there's more ways that motorists are able to modify their motorcycles or cars to make them louder. It's an ongoing issue that it's a fight that we don't seem to be winning. I know back in the day I've worked on this portfolio many times and set up road checks at Victoria Park, Brighton Road, all the hot spots, and it seems to work for a short period of time. But the people who want to have loud cars, their desire seems to be quite strong.
Yes, thank you for that, and we get more complaints in that in the summer because of the motorcycles are out in the summer, they're not out in the winter, which is only common sense. And, yeah, and that's all we can do is just keep monitoring it and checking the vehicles, I guess, when the police see it, is it? And I guess there's nothing else you can do, spot checks or whatever you like to do. Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. I know there's been several areas in downtown that have been identified as key spots where the noise seems to be quite loud. It's along Water Street is quite, can be quite noisy, along where Founders Hall is. A lot of times you'll see people just skipping right through those lights. I don't know if we have cameras down in that area or not. That might be a question I could ask if there are any cameras, if we have any type of, a rotation where folks go down and do a roadblock and periodically stop some of these louder type vehicles. I mean, I see down there every day, a vehicle go by and the music is blaring that that the streets are vibrating, and you don't often see anybody reprimanded for that, although I do understand our police services is certainly under-resourced right now, but any help would be great, and I don't know, my question is specifically along Water Street, is there any additional monitoring there? Because people do seem to be able to get an excessive speed and noise going along that area.
Go ahead, Deputy Chief.
Thank you. There has been monitoring in the past in those particular areas. To my knowledge, I'm not sure if we've started that up this year or not. What we found in the past is a couple of things. Constable Kaiser and Constable Johnson have worked on this file quite a few summers in a row when they were part of the community action team. And a couple of the issues are the motorcycles, their noise is so loud that it's hard to gauge where it's coming from because it travels over so many streets. Although we did concentrate our efforts in the Victoria Park, the areas that you were discussing, it could have easily been on Euston Street or Victory Avenue where the noise was made. The second thing with the motorcycles, the issue is unless they've been modified that they're always loud, a lot of times what gets people upset is when they're torqued. And the torquing is done usually not in front of the police. It's when we're not around. So a lot of times we're having road checks and everyone is compliant through the road check. They go 2 streets up, we're nowhere in the area, and then they...
Yeah, give her a shot.
Exactly.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you for that. So you will be monitoring what the deputy mayor said too. Maybe we can have people monitoring that a little bit closer too. Every street in Charlottetown, but they're going by my house too, so, okay, thank you. Police traffic control during power outages.
Chair, this is a short one. Report is traffic control during power outages. And the report is that Chief McConnell will be meeting with Public Works staff to discuss traffic control during power outages and some of the issues and what we can do to make it more efficient in the future.
That's great.
Chair, the mayor had also indicated that he was looking into getting more information from the province before he left. He wanted you to know that.
How much?
That
Oh, yes, okay, yes. Yes, the mayor is getting more information also on that issue too from the province, because I think the province sets up the traffic lights and everything, don't they? The timing and all that on it?
They may, I know it's tendered out by Hanson Electric.
Yes, right, okay. Thank you for that, Tracy. Anything else? On a personal note, I'd like to thank everybody for their kind thoughts of the loss of our family member. And that's it. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Yes, we need a motion to adjourn, sorry. Is there any new business? No, we went through that. Didn't we? I don't think there's any new business. CAO? No. Councillor Beck, any new business? Deputy Mayor? No new business. Once again, I need a motion to adjourn. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Beck. Thank you very much, folks.